Danielle, we didn't know we'd be talking about this because this just broke a couple of moments ago. If this information is true, how does it change the complexion of this story?
I don't think it changes it that much. The challenge for us is not what happened. I think the challenge for us is whether the action that the president is taking towards Venezuela and towards these drug boats is considered legal. And depending on your perspective, you're going to either say, we are at war, these are competents. For example, when Barack Obama would take out a terrorist convoy, he often would hit it twice and sometimes even 3 times, and that was considered perfectly legitimate. In this instance, it's not considered legitimate. And I think the distinction is between how we view terrorists and how we view narco traffickers. So if the president is indeed correct, we are involved in a war, then a second strike is legitimate. If we are, in fact, involved in the enforcement of crime, as many people think, then it's really not legitimate to take out survivors.
So this really becomes between a military action or a police action, I think is what you're telling us, Danielle. According to the Times reporting, the Secretary's contingency plans laid out that the military would, in fact, attempt to rescue survivors who appeared to be helpless, shipwrecked, or out of the fight. In this case, waving apparently to someone to surrender. Is this why we heard Democrats like Jim Himes calling this disturbing, that it was a case of murder?
Well, we're hearing Democrats call it disturbing and a case of murder because everything that we do, including going to out for fast food, has become politicized. Again, this was one of the first strikes by the Trump administration. So it's not entirely clear to me that if these men were on top of their boat and waving, they actually knew what was involved. Could they have been waving at a drone? Could they have been waving at others who they hoped would rescue them, who were also narco traffickers? I don't think we know, and I don't think the members of Congress know either. What they're saying is basically depends entirely on where they're sitting and on which side of the aisle, not on the facts of the case.
Danielle, like you're mentioning, members of Congress looked at this footage yesterday and came away with very different conclusions depending on what party they're in. So I wonder, how do we move forward in terms of resolving some of these questions around the legality of these strikes? What are the next steps?
Well, you know what the miserable answer is, right? Because it's not that what the president says is enough. It's not that what Congress says is enough. Now, in this day and age, we wait for the courts. And part of the challenge here is that the president does have fairly unlimited authority as commander-in-chief to be able to order, to be able to take us to war, to be able to have a finding that we are in armed conflict and that these groups are terrorists. In those definitions, the Pentagon is within its rights. The challenge to that has to take place in the courts, and I think it's going to be very difficult because the courts don't want to run the country. They don't want to make foreign policy decisions that rightly, constitutionally, are in the purview of either the president or Congress. And so we're left in exactly the same place that we always are on almost everything.
Danielle, the administration has emphasized over and over that they have intelligence that the people on these boats are, in fact, trafficking drugs. Are we right to place confidence in what the administration is saying? How can we be sure that the people on these boats are actually doing the things that the administration is saying they are?
Look, we can't be sure of anything. Was the man that the Obama administration had killed in Pakistan, Osama bin Laden? Do you believe the intelligence? Do you believe that January 6th was actually a riot or that it was organized by Nancy Pelosi? Again, what you think depends on where you sit. It has not been American tradition to question the intelligence pronouncements, both of our intelligence community and of the White House. The second that we start saying that, the second that we start disbelieving absolutely every word that comes out of the mouth of the President of the United States, we have a much bigger problem than Venezuela.
Well, we might be there, Danielle. The president did say that he supported the public release of this video. Do you take him at his word?
Yes, I do. I think that Donald Trump's general view of such things is, I saw it, I believe it, and if I believe it, I'm right, other people will see it my way. And in fact, that is what we saw, that people, now Republicans, and it's more important to say that when Republicans were critical of him, they hadn't seen the video. After the briefing from the Pentagon, Republicans like Roger Wicker, who is the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, who is a straight shooter, not, a sycophant for the president, he said he had been uncomfortable. Once he saw the video, he was much more comfortable with the narrative and questioned the press reporting that had initially come out in the Washington Post. And so, again, I respect Roger Wicker. Do we want to believe him? Depends where you sit.